Hello, my people. Welcome to the internets. Welcome to the Score channel on the internets. Isn't that fun? This is us right now. I hope you guys are having a good day, and welcome back. We're going to be doing another live stream tonight, just like we have the last several months in a row on Monday. And we're going to be doing something similar to what we did a couple of weeks ago. A couple of weeks ago, I did a video on how to write a college supplemental essay, the Why This University essay. And so today we're also going to be doing the same kind of thing, but today we're going to be focused on the Why This Major essay. Okay? A lot of universities are going to ask you to write this kind of essay, this essay that explains why you have chosen your particular major or why you have chosen a particular program. And also sometimes they call this the statement of purpose. So essentially that's what we're writing here. It goes by different names, but it's all the same kind of content. Okay? So what we're going to be working on is this essay, and I'm going to explain to you guys how we're going to do it, just like we did a couple weeks ago. So I think before we start, it's important to understand a couple things about this essay and what it's for. So again, the typical prompt, and I'm going to show you the prompt that actually inspired me to do this. Again, I've been helping people left and right this week as we got a big deadline coming up. And the one that stood out to me was this one from the University of Cincinnati. So let me zoom in on that a little bit for you and get it where you can see it. So this says here that students must also submit a personal statement in response to the following prompt in approximately 500 words. Why did you apply to each of the academic programs listed on your application? Should provide additional information not already referenced in your application. So this is an important detail. We are trying to provide additional information, another perspective on ourselves. We're not just trying to restate what we've already said in our personal statements or our other essays. We want to make sure that we really explain why we've chosen these programs in particular. Again, you can see this presented in a number of different ways. Sometimes it's, why did you choose this major? Well, give us a statement of purpose explaining why you chose this. But if they're asking you why you've chosen that particular program or why you want to study what you want to study, then this is the essay you have to write. So let's write an essay. Again, I'm going to be doing this sort of for myself, right? As if I were doing that. We're going to assume that my major is education. And so what I want to do with this, let me embiggen that a little bit for you. So what I want to do, again, as always, before we write anything, we should always outline our work and get a good idea of what we want to say. So I kind of think that this is a good place to do maybe 3 or 4 paragraphs. I'm going to work up to about that 500 word count approximately today. That's the typical number that I see. So we're going to target that. And what I want to start with is, how did I come to decide that I wanted to study this? What's the origin story? Right? Why, or maybe how did I, that's sort of where we want to start. The origin story is, how did I discover that I wanted to study this? When did I first have that realization that this is what I want to do? This is what I want to learn about. I think that's a complex question that everybody has to think about. And if you've already covered a lot of this in your personal statement, okay, then we can also focus more on other areas. So I'm going to give you some of those other areas that I think are important. So I think another thing that we can do is to describe a little bit of what we hope to achieve, right? Hopes and dreams and goals and stuff. So the hopes and dreams and goals are sort of thinking future forward. What do we want to accomplish after we graduate? What else do we think we can do with this degree? Okay, so that's going to be another thing, because obviously if you choose to study a particular subject, you're doing it in hopes of eventually working or exercising that profession. So you should talk about that. You should explain what you hope to accomplish down the road with this studying that you're doing. So we got our kind of origin story. And again, there's different ways I can present this origin story. Maybe I can go for a personal experience. Maybe I can look at a problem in society that caught your attention and that made you more aware that we need support in this area. I don't know. There could be different ways that you can approach this, but I mention this so that you can think about other ways to differentiate it from your personal statement. If your personal statement already covers your personal experiences, well, then maybe you shift to a problem in society, and vice versa. If you focused on a problem in society for your personal statement, talk about your own personal experiences. Change it up. That's important. So with my hopes and dreams and goals, I want to think about like future career possibilities, maybe community engagement. We talk about that a lot here. That's really important. Community engagement being like, are you going to do something good for the community? How are you going to give back? I think that's something that we should all genuinely care about and not just put in here because it looks good. I know that's tempting sometimes. So that's going to be kind of part 2 is the hopes and dreams and goals. And then specifically why this major at this university. And this is where we're going to go back to what I said 2 weeks ago. We want to talk about courses, professors, or any clubs, groups that enrich this area of study. Okay, so that's our outline. This is essentially what we want to try to accomplish. So I want to just review this one more time. We've got our origin story, or how we figured out that we want to study this major. I think this is really important because we have to show them that we seriously mean it. That I didn't just pick business because I didn't know what else to study. I didn't just pick becoming a lawyer because I want to make money. Like, what inspired you to choose this? You're about to dedicate 4 or 5 years of your life to it, so you better have a good reason. And then what do you hope to accomplish down the road? What do you think you will do with this when you are done? And this is where you can transition into the university a little bit too, by talking about maybe how they have the environment that you need to do that. Okay, think about that as well. And then the specific stuff about that university. So again, this is where we want to show off our research, because again, these essays usually are specific to each university. So even if you have 4 or 5 essays that ask you the same question, 4 or 5 essays that ask you about your major, you can't just copy paste them all. You need to differentiate them a little bit. I know it's work. I know you got deadlines coming up. I know the last thing that you want to do is write 5 of these. But look, you can reuse this part, recycle this. That's going to be the same for everybody. That's you. That doesn't change. But this major at this university, that's where you really want to make sure that the university knows that you want to be there and that you are ready to do it and committed. So that's what we're going to work on today. All right, so I'm going to stick to my education major, and I'm going to try to come up with my origin story a little bit here to get started. All right, and I'm going to shrink this down a little bit just because now it's kind of big, and I don't like writing that big. I'm going to drop these down a couple lines too so you guys can keep it up here. All right, so for me, I want to go back to like the first time that I ever thought about being a teacher, right? All right, so I'm just starting out here with like a little intro paragraph, and I think I'm going to break up this first part into a couple paragraphs here. Don't worry too much about paragraph structure in this kind of an essay. Even though I have 3 items here, I wouldn't suggest 3 paragraphs, and the reason why is because it's probably going to be more than, let's say, 400, 500 words. If this was a 250-word essay, then yeah, maybe 3 paragraphs is fine. Like this would be a full third of that right now at 85. But if I am doing a longer one, and I am aiming right now for that 500 word count, I'm probably going to break some of these sections into multiple paragraphs, because in this day and age, if you have a paragraph that's longer than 100 words, it's kind of a lot. Like, you got to understand that we're living in 2021, and these days the internet uses very small paragraphs, very small pieces, and that's what these people are used to reading. They're not used to reading a wall of text, so don't give them one. So even though this is still my introduction and I still want to keep going, I'm going to break it up into another paragraph. Oh, and this is a true story, by the way. This is a 100% true story. My grandpa and my dad were on the phone for like an hour, him just trying to explain this basic task. And my grandpa was like 80, and my dad is like, 40 something at the time, and he just couldn't get him to do it. And he was just screaming into the phone. He was like, because he was trying to tell him to click the browse button to find the file. It was pretty funny. So what else do I teach people how to do? All right, so I think I've spent enough time on my intro here. I'm already at about probably about 200-ish, close. 185, okay. So, yeah, it's time to start transitioning into this kind of futuristic stuff, what I hope to do with this stuff. So right here, again, I've just sort of established that I had this natural inclination towards education, and that I was good at it, but I didn't really know what I was doing. I was good at teaching stuff, but I had no idea why. All right, where are we at? I think we're about 290, 320. Okay, we're going a little farther. All right. So again, I'm trying to get into this idea of what I think is important about education or what I hope to do with it in the future. And I'm alluding to that by explaining here that, I see this problem in education about teachers that are lacking in patience, lacking in self-awareness, lacking in, confidence and security, and how that affects us, and that the system is kind of broken. And I want to change that. That's the sort of big picture statement here. This is why I want to study this, because I want to be that teacher that doesn't make you feel anxious and insecure, but rather makes you feel empowered and makes you feel strong. And I think that's the sort of reason for being that I have had in education in my life. And obviously I'm saying this after having taught for many years, but this is the same concept. This is what I want you to think about. Like, why are you doing this? What for? You should have a good reason. And sometimes you got to stop and think about that reason. Sometimes it's not right there in your head. Writing it down is one of the best ways. So I think I have covered this stuff to a degree. I'm not going into deep specifics here because the length of this, I wanted to focus a little bit more on my big goal, which is I want to change this system that has a lot of teachers that I think do more harm than good. So now we get into this stuff. And this is going to be similar to what I told you about a couple of weeks ago. But the first thing I need to do is take a look at some courses. Okay. I need to find, I'm going to use this University of Cincinnati one. Let's see if we can find some courses, campus majors and programs. All right, let's take a look. We're going to do a little bit of research. All right, I think it's just search. I haven't searched it yet, so it shouldn't be research. Research would suggest that I've done it again. Let's just search education then and see what we get. Oof. Apparently, everything is education at a university. All right, educational studies. That's probably what we're looking for. That's a master's. Do we have a bachelor's? No, that's a doctorate. Okay. So again, this is why it's also important for you to check this stuff, because you need to make sure that you are taking that your course exists and everything. All right. So those are the, let's see, gifted education certificate. All right. Health education, education leadership. That's a graduate certificate. I just got to find one in here. I could also go with psychology. That's a good basis for education. So pre-secondary education. Let's go back to this for a second. Let's go to bachelor. Yeah, let's filter those a little bit. All right. So we have early childhood education. That could be a good one. Yeah, if I wanted to go with younger. I don't like working with younger kids, but I mean, I could use that for the sake of this example. Let's see. Okay, here we go. We're starting to get into some of the more secondary. Okay, so they have specialized ones. Nice. Okay. So I think I would have to be very specific here. See, this is good. This is another thing to remember. This is another reason why you cannot copy paste these things. If you, oh, hey, what's up, Ian? What's up, dude? Good to see you. Welcome to the party. Thanks for saying hi. Yeah, you cannot copy paste these things, because imagine that you copy pasted this from another university and they don't have the exact program that you were talking about over there, or that theirs is much more specific. In this case, if I had to choose any of these, I'm going to choose the English language arts secondary education program. So this is the thing, each university presents its stuff differently. You got to make sure that your information is specific. So let's take a look at this one. We're doing the all right. Graduation requirements, all coursework and program requirements. Let's see what those are. Can we find that stuff? Yeah, okay. Yeah, we know what those are going to be. Curriculum. There we go. That's what we're looking for. All right. See, that didn't take me too long, did it now? All right. So, again, I want to drop some course names. If I can find any information about these, that'd be even better. But let's just start with some of these basic things. Let's take a look at what introduction to education, educational technology, individuals with exceptionalities. That's an interesting one. All right. Pre-adolescent through adolescent development. All right. That could be a good one for me to mention. I'm going to start grabbing some things here. I want to get the title of this and get that into my document. And then this guy, let's see, we got free electives, reading literature, diverse classrooms. I think I could mention some of this stuff. That would be good. American journalism. All right, adolescent stuff. I like that there's adolescent literature and like adolescent. I'm gonna maybe take some of those. There was the other one here about adolescent development, which I think is also important for me. So again, I just want to drop a few course names that I can talk about to kind of make my, my essay really show that I understand and really want to talk about this university or this program at this university. So now that I got those details down there, let's get to it. So all right, so let's let me see where my word count's at. I feel like I'm getting close. 416. Okay. All right. And then all right, so what I've done here is, again, just given a ton of specific information about the specific major at the University of Cincinnati. And I did that by just, again, looking up their programs, choosing the one that I want, finding 3 courses from their curriculum, and then, leveraging that into why I think those would be useful for me, why I think those would be important. That is essentially what I want to do when I want to get to this part of, like, why this major at this university. It's not just why this major, it's why this major, because every university's major is different. That's something you have to understand. They're not the same. 2 universities can have the same major with the same title and have 2 very different curricula. So when they ask why this major, they're asking why our major, why our program. That's what they're asking you for. So I think I've covered a pretty good amount of that, and I think that I can kind of, proceed forward. Now, again, if we're thinking of this as a why this major, why studying this, or a statement of purpose, I always want to be thinking forward. I want to be thinking into the future. I want to explain where my interest came from with those first 2 paragraphs, but then I want to look at the future. What else can I do? So I like to finish off with a little bit of like an optimistic, forward-thinking idea. Where can I conclude this with something that, speaks to what I think I can do in the future? All right, we're at 5:05. I got to cut 5 words. Let's cut 5 words. Okay. So something you can always look for is this. There is supposed to just became should. That killed 2 words. I could do this. Many teachers who. I think that was enough. $4.99. You love to see it. Okay, my people, that is all there is to it. Look, let's just go over what I've done again here for a moment. So I am starting out with my origin story, how I discovered that I wanted to study this, and I went with a personal experience. I chose that because maybe in my personal statement, I talked more about a problem. I want to make sure I don't repeat myself. They're going to see more than one essay, so it's important for you to, make sure you diversify your essays. I talk a little bit about what I would like to see here, what problems I want to solve. I started out with this intro story. I then went to how it affected me and how I would later experiment with teaching. And then here I get into some of the problems that I see in education that I want to solve. And so I think by doing that, I have made it clear how I got this idea in the first place. I've made it clear what I want to do with it. And then I need to go into the major and how the major is going to help me do that. So I did this whole paragraph about specific courses available at this university with this program. It's extremely important that you have the full name of the program and the university and names of specific courses. You've got to get specific here, just like I talked about 2 weeks ago. I finished it up with just a little positive feeling conclusion. I think in a 500-word essay, I have the space to do that. Now, if I only had 250 words, I would probably synthesize this down to even less than 85. I would keep a lot of this stuff if I could. Definitely this has to stay, and I could probably finish it here. So if I just take these 2 paragraphs, I'm sitting at about 200 words. I could trim this down and get 50 out of that and be done. So you can see here some of the extra content that I have added. I've a little bit more reflection, a little bit more, forward-thinking aspirations. But if I were to do this in 250, I would just get my cool intro that explains where this idea came from. I would focus on the problems I want to solve, and then I would focus on the major. All these questions come together to really form a coherent essay that I think will leave them thinking, okay, this person really does want to study this. And that is ultimately the goal of this essay, my people. I think if there's one thing I can leave you with, it's this to understand. Admissions officers want to make sure that you are sure about what you want to do. The last thing they want is to admit somebody into this faculty only for them to 6 months into it change their mind and go, you know what? I've made the wrong choice. I don't want to be here anymore. I quit, or I want to switch majors, or I want to. And it's not that you can't do those things, but if it looks like you're going to do those things, it's a bad look. Okay? Especially as an international student, they are taking a bit of risk on you, So for them, there's already an element of risk. You're an international student. What if you don't adapt to the culture? What if you're not academically ready? They try to filter those things through tests and other means, but you have to understand that from their perspective, they are looking for people who know what they want. People who are sure of what they want to do. So you have to transmit that confidence to them. And the way you transmit that confidence is showing them, first of all, that you have a good reason to study the thing that you're studying. And then also by, showing them that you care about this major enough to take a few minutes out of your day, do some research on the curriculum, and really show them that this is what you want to study, that you want to go here and you want to study this and you're confident. If you do that, I'm sure that they're going to read this and be much more inclined to admit you. So with that, my people, that is all I'm going to be doing for today because I got things to do and people to see. All right. It's been a pleasure. I'll see you next week. Don't forget to check out the channel on Thursday. I got a cool video coming out that took me like a freaking 20 hours of work and I want you to watch it. All right. So please do. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good